Welcome to Fantastic Females, our adventure to finding the mythical island of freedom together. I'm Kalyani.
And I'm Rupali. We are your next door finance experts sharing our experiences in the world of money and energetics.
Hi everyone. So this is going to be an episode in a little bit of a different construct. Every now and then we want to kind of bring in questions that have come through to us to discuss our view and thoughts on these kind of life situations that people experience. And so we'll do it periodically. And today's topic is about medical insurance.
We want to call these money matters because money does matter, and we'll be bringing up different concerns that we face in our lives and we hear back from you about. So today's topic is medical insurance, and this ends up being a bit of a trigger, at least for me. And yeah, let's just talk about it. Rupali, have you had any experience with?
I think not necessarily. I think with me it's been pretty one of those things where you work, they give it to you and you're like, great, you walk away, you don't think twice about it, and then until comes a point where you actually need to visit a doctor and you figure out, is there co-payment, how much co-payment is there, what are you covered for, what are you not covered for. That's when the topic comes up. And for me, I've never had any such major medical things that I needed to consider touch wood. So I think that's what I think of.
Yeah, for me, I think it's been a big journey. I grew up in India where there is no medical insurance largely. Now it's become pretty common to have medical insurance, but largely it's not common to have one. So you would literally just end up walking in and you would know the consultation prices and you would pay for the services. And the services are generally quite affordable compared to the prices that I hear of now. They are peanuts. For really good, skilled diagnosis, opinions, services, tests, etc. So in that sense, for me, that was the simple model that I had grown up with. And here, when I got my first job, then I was in the UK, where there's public healthcare largely, which has its own, you have to wait a lot, but then it's straightforward, you don't pay anything. And they generally just end up prescribing some really simple medication or end up sending you back, from my experience, again, of not having anything major that I needed to be taken care of. And I also had spouse insurance with a private insurer through my spouse in the UK, but I don't think I ever needed to use it. Then when I came here and I got my job, and it was the medical insurance thing kept coming up in terms of a benefit that they mentioned to me at the start. So I was like, okay, fine. I mean, it seems to be a big deal. And maybe around that time, it had become compulsory for employers to provide it for employees. Before that, it wasn't. And I remember writing an email to my HR to say, I've never used insurance before. Can you tell me what this means? And she sent me an email back with an attachment of a list of clinics. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this? I mean, I really didn't know. Does it mean that I pay for the consultation and then get a reimbursement, or what does that mean? So it took me, just a couple of calls to understand. And then since then, it's been a big part of packages, I suppose. And I do tend to use it in terms of, like, if I need any physiotherapy, or I've been to chiropractors before. I don't think my insurance even allowed for any mental wellness sort of things. I know people who have that as part of their insurances, but I basically used it for physiotherapy mainly. Even dental and optical covers I've never used till now. So that's something that I like to have. And then in 2017, at the end of 2017, I decided to quit my job when I had had my son. And since then, I've been paying for my own insurance, which was a bit of an eye-opener for me because I knew what it would cost my company, which was a large company with 14,000 employees at that time, in different grades and stuff. But I had an idea of what it would cost per employee for the group to provide that. The numbers that I was getting as a self-employed individual, freelancer, entrepreneur were totally different, like 5 times what the company would have paid. So if a company pays about 3,000 to 5,000 dirhams per employee, then these were literally easily 3 to 5 times for a similar comparable coverage. That definitely took some time to get used to, mentally, emotionally, nervous
course.
system wise. And then since then, it's been a journey of kind of being okay with that outflow and considering that as a part of my business expense or my
Yeah.
annual expenses.
Yeah.
That's something that I would like to make our viewers aware of, that if you're in a position where you have a corporate career and you may be considering stepping out to follow your passion, that's all well and good. But it is to be aware that it is good to be aware that maybe about 15 to 20,000 dirhams would be probably a good amount to set aside for a good annual cover for medical insurance. If you have kids and if they're being paid for by your company, then that's an additional consideration. And if you're okay with this amount, or your side hustle, your passion project pays this much anyway, then that's great. And then that doesn't add to the pressure that you take for that business or that passion project to create money straight away. Otherwise, things like this can put a lot of pressure on something that you started to enjoy. You started it because you enjoy it, but actually the pressure makes it
takes
totally
away from it.
or the opposite.
Yeah, I think, my initial thoughts on this were like, oh wow, yeah, I've never considered this. But now that I think of it as you're speaking, I think, what are we living and working for ultimately, right? It's for yourself.
Yes.
And if you can't spend, like, on the one hand, I'm thinking if you can't spend on yourself for the most important part, like your health, that's interesting because we spend money on gadgets, on travel, like we mentioned earlier, we were talking earlier and we discussed it. Travel, gadgets, all the little bits that, we spend on without blinking an eye. So sometimes it's not so much about whether you have the money or not to spend. It's more about just the mindset, it's about what you make of that expense and how you process it. And so it's such an interesting perspective.
Yeah, and it's taking me back to when I got married right at the beginning, my husband and I decided, I don't remember the context that it came from. I think we were in a wellness center, a popular wellness center that we used to frequent quite a lot. And we both we both agreed on the fact that we're never going to scrimp on our physical health or our mental health. So if there's any expense that we need to do, we're not going to be stingy in those two aspects. So now with this situation of not having a corporate insurance, and my spouse doesn't get family insurance as part of his package, it is important for me to have the right emergency fund, if you want to call it. I like to change the name of my emergency fund and sometimes call it my parachute fund. My
freedom fund.
Freedom fund is a much better way of referring to it than an emergency fund. So I like to have a solid emergency fund for things like this that may not fit into my cash flow. And maybe I don't buy as many bags as the other person does, or maybe I don't do as many, outings, whatever people generally tend to spend on. I would eat at home as well. So generally, I think I end up living conservatively, knowing that this freedom fund gives me security, that I'm able to spend on things that are important to me, which is wellness in every way. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because this week has been my insurance reminder week. And even after, 5 years of going through this, I realized that it was still getting to me. And it was one of those things that was taking me back and making me revisit my decision, which was a total waste of time and a drain of energy. And having been through that and resolving it for myself, it took me a good 24 hours to get over it. I would just hope that if you're in a similar position, then A, get used to it emotionally, B, prepare for it practically. Whether you're already a self-employed person, whether you're already an entrepreneur or you're planning to be one, then having those two things in place would really help.
Yes, perfect.
So please share this podcast, leave your reviews, your comments to support us on our journey. We are so passionate about making your lives more abundant with this information.
So with that, we bring this episode of our financial adventure to an end. Please follow us on all social media platforms at Fantastic Females.
None of the information provided is financial advice, and Fantastic Females is not a financial advisor.
The information provided is educational only. It is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances.
Please use your own due diligence before making any financial or investment decisions.